So I've talked about making a seed saving app that you can map out where seeds are available in public locations or private ones, which is very different to collect seeds on private land versus public. But there's plenty of public lands, like along this roadway right here. There's an ash tree that I would like to collect a bunch of seeds of and make tons of ash tree babies. They are really a great tree. They get enormous. You can chop parts of them off. You can sculpt them. You can use them to make bows. You can use them to make butcher blocks. It's really excellent wood. So anyway, rather than make the whole app, one of the questions is, what is the minimum we could do to get the goal met? And one of the options, which might have some limitations I'll think of as we talk, but one of the options is just to make a very, very simple app where you're walking in a place, it knows where you are because your phone, right? And you can say, this type of seed, this location, and the seeds are there this time of year. That then, the app sends that into a centralized server where it checks and sees if that has already been reported in that exact place. It could be that there's more than one report, and that expands the amount of time that seed's available. So if somebody reports it's available in April and somebody else reports it's available in May, the map gets updated. Now the map could actually piggyback on Google My Maps, where, you want to keep a main database anyway in case you lose access to that or they go out of business or something like that. But it could populate then the Google My Maps and have sections for different times of the year, like by month. You could do it by month. That seems reasonable enough. You could even color code the points based on whether it's all month or the first week, second week, or third week or fourth week or something. You could, I don't know. But there might be ways you could indicate with more precision. I think a month is precise enough, because also if you're a regular seed saver, you're going to go to that area and you're going to, if it's a place you live, then you have multiple opportunities to collect the seeds. I guess there might be some cases where a seed is only there for a very short period of time, which would change things quite a bit. I know when I have traveled, I've collected seeds and then germinated those, and now I have whole trees that I didn't have before. In fact, nobody in this area had them. I remember I collected some down at the coast, and I thought, well, it's a different climate there. I don't know if they're going to do well for me, but some of them have. And that gives me more biodiversity. It makes flowers happen at more times of the year, giving food for bees at more times of the year and other pollinators. It gives more for bats and birds, hummingbirds and stuff. If we want to feed wildlife, then we want to have a massive diversity of plants available, so it's happier. Whatever type of animal is happier. And of course, we get more human use out of that more times. My point being that rather than design it as a more complicated app, we might be able to piggyback on existing systems where Google My Maps, if the app is just really simple and you're just reporting this thing is there. Now, the app could, I suppose, be able to check with the database and say, this one's already been logged. And that prevents people from relogging things that are already logged. Like, it's kind of just a waste of their time, right? And you could even imagine, they could take a picture of it and upload that. The point on the Google map could have a link to wiki species or something like that, which has pictures. So there's a lot of options on how that could work out. But the thing is, most people aren't going to go collect every goddamn seed there is. In fact, that should be discouraged. And it should only be people who are going to collect seeds that are then going to reproduce them. Because most of those seeds will never reproduce on their own. We're not stealing something from nature. And the plant may or may not even be native anyway. We're taking seeds that would not otherwise germinate. Like this ash tree I mentioned produces tens of thousands of seeds, some of which are way too high up to get at. But just down in the ground level, where you can reach them, there's thousands of seeds. And most people don't want to have a ton of ash trees. So I'm not expecting there to be a ton of abuse with this. It could be perfectly acceptable if somebody was to was to collect too many of them, I guess, and then trade them with other people and or sell them. I mean, it's a wasted public resource, because most of those seeds that fall off that tree, in fact, almost none of those tens of thousands will make another plant. And that's true of most plants that have seeds, is that those seeds are our most powerful waste product that's just laying around. Now, seeds on private land are another matter, because then you'd have to be trespassing to get at them. And so in that case, you could map those as well, but that's a big different thing, because then you would need to contact the owner and ask for permission. And so someone could add a dot of seeds they know about on their own land and say, I welcome people to come collect these. Or it could be that there's just a dot with the something indicating approximately where it is or where the seed is available. And so seed traders or sellers could actually list themselves as well. And that gets the seeds away from the person who has way too many of them and gets into the hands of somebody who is willing to germinate them. And they might even have a nursery, and they might sell the plants. That's okay. I don't see a problem with that. The other benefit of this is that if people are willing to collect seeds and then germinate them, it diversifies the genome. Because a lot of things are only reproduced by clones. Let's look at nopales, for example. A kind of a cactus with a paddle. And sometimes the fruits are called prickly pears. Or in Spanish, they're called tunas, which is not like the fish. And those are rarely ever reproduced from seed. I have done it, but not very much, because it's a pain in the ass. And they're kind of hard to germinate as far as seeds go. But if you had exactly the right microclimate, for example in terrariums or some kind of climate-controlled place with exactly the right soil, you could probably make thousands of them very easily. That would diversify the genome. Now, instead of having a bunch of clones of nopales that all came from like one or two plants, instead we have thousands that have unique attributes. We could have ones grow that had better fruit, that had worse fruit, that had different flavor, that needed more or less water. And this is how some very interesting plants have been created, such as Cavendish bananas. All Cavendish bananas are clones. They came from one mutant plant. That also makes them weak, because a disease could come in and wipe them all out. Whereas if you have a diversified genome, it's more likely that some plants will survive some kind of disease or something, or climate change or whatever. So we want to diversify the genome as much as possible. It would be kind of like if everybody in the world was a twin, if they were all clones, that would be very, very, very bad, because then a disease that everyone is particularly prone to would kill everybody. Whereas if there was more diversity, it might only kill off some people. Possible. I mean, the human genome is really fascinating to study, but and we are actually continuing with evolution in our genetic selection of who to mate with. So evolution hasn't actually stopped. Some people would think, oh, technological progress and we're all fancy, evolution is no longer relevant. And it's like, well, actually, it's super relevant, and we're continuing it every time we decide who to reproduce with. That might be why, supposedly, men are getting taller. If women consistently like tall men and are more willing to be impregnated by them, then men will get taller. And you could even have greater sexual dimorphism if you have a bunch of short women reproducing with taller and taller men, although I would then be worried about the size of the baby and like how big do they get when they're still in the womb, and can you get the baby out of the woman, without a cesarean ideally, although those are quite common. So yeah, there's some weird thoughts for you on seeds and plants and genetic diversity and stuff. I think I had the technology to do that pretty easily. I think that's an easy app to develop, especially if we're piggybacking off of another technology like Google My Maps.